I record this audio on the 18th of April 2018 just to put my thoughts together and share it with some of my friends. This is not financial advice. These are just my opinions. Not trying to create any sensation. This is just some of my research that I put together and trying to join the dots. Please do your own research and consider this just my opinion. Okay, so I've been researching for some time about the markets. I'm an investor in the stock markets and different asset classes, and so it interests me to study about the geopolitical issues, etc. Last year I was introduced to cryptocurrencies, and while I kept researching on the birth of cryptocurrency, I jumped into something unusual. The birth of Bitcoin was just so well timed that it forced me to ask myself a question. Bitcoin, which was introduced by Satoshi Nakamoto, was introduced in October 2008, just 1 month after the Lehman Brothers crisis, which happened in September 2008. This intrigued me a bit, so I decided to dig in deeper. And when I dug in deeper, I found this picture that you see on your background. Now I'll come to that picture later, but why I decided to get into cryptocurrency was the comfort I got from CBOE and CME, which recently had listed them on the exchange in America. And also I wondered that if the governments wanted to shut cryptocurrency, they could have just shut down the exchanges, but they did not. So I figured that this is a larger plan. This is a much longer plan. And while I was researching, I dropped into the background picture that we see right now. As we can see that it's a bird, a phoenix, with the currency below burning, and the neck has a coin which resembles, in my assumption, a Bitcoin, and it's gold. And the magazine says, "Get ready for one world currency." Now this told me that okay, that means cryptocurrency is ready to stay. We all talking about digital currency, and so this is here to stay. And is it possible that the fiat currency, the current monetary system, may not stay in the future? And that's when I decided to dig in a bit more deeper into the history of our world and the geopolitical issues that we face today. And slowly in my research, which covered the World War I, World War II, different conflicts, a little bit about religion, different religions, went back further, how America ruled the world for the last 100 years, and before that it was Britain. And that's what got me more interested in the religious side, what the holy books say. Now I'll jump into the holy books before I come to my conclusion. As I said, this video is from an investor point of view. It's a study, it's a research, it's an opinion based on certain facts and figures, based on certain headlines that we see today. And this is just my opinion, but my opinion is that we should be careful in these times. So going back to history, what I realized that the world is divided in two major belief systems or about religion. The first one is with the belief system which is common to that of the Roman Catholics. And the second belief system is that of the Orthodox Christians. And there's one sect of Islam which follows Roman Catholics, and the other sect of Shia which follow the Orthodox Christians. The major difference in the belief system is about the birth of Jesus. I will not get into religious conversations here, but that's what divides the world into two parts. So I decided to divide them into two teams of different belief systems. One was the blue team, which was of the belief system, one that of the Roman Catholics, and the red team, the one that believes system of the Orthodox Christians. So in the blue team, we have countries like Italy, Germany, France, United States of America, we have Australia, we have Canada. So predominantly the west side of the world. And we also have countries like Saudi Arabia, Israel, Japan in this blue team. And then we have the red team, which has the same belief system, one of that of the Orthodox Christians, which have countries like China, India, Russia, Iran, Iraq. These are some of the countries that consist of red team, even Pakistan for that matter. Now, if we go back to history, we observe that before the 1600s, it was the eastern side of the world, which is the red team, consisting of Russia, China, India, etc., which ruled the world both in business, politics, and economy. The West had a very limited share of money, whereas the East had more than 80% of the wealth. Post 1600, we saw the Roman Empire, etc., come and start taking some of our wealth. But it was mainly in the 17th century when UK came in and took over almost all the naval lands of the world. So basically it conquered every area of the world on the eastern side, which was surrounded by the sea. And this is what the Holy Book says also. The Holy Book says that post 1700, the first ruler of the world will be Britain. Now this is not by accident, because Britain, if you look at it in the map, it's a very small nation, a small island, for which even Napoleon had put it as a country which is only of shopkeepers. So how was it that such a small island in Europe could rule the whole world? And as we know that even India, if you know India's history, we were always invaded by the blue team, whether it was Portugal, whether it was France, whether it was UK. So the Holy Book says the first ruler of the world would be United Kingdom, which ruled this world for 200 years. And it was the first creator of the central bank. The Bank of England was created in UK, and which governed the world and the rule all around the eastern region. This rule was supposed to happen till some time, and the Holy Book says that the throne will then be given to America. So in 1913, USA formed Fed, the American Central Bank, Federal Reserve. In 1914, we had the First World War, which was started by Germany and UK, and America helped these countries. And this is when the Soviet Union came under a lot of pressure. The Second World War, as we are aware, started in 1939 and continued till 1945. This war was started by the Germans, in which many Jews were massacred by them. The Jews belong to the blue team. In fact, they're the major factor of the blue team. The Germans, on the other hand, partner with the blue team when it comes to economics and business, but in terms of the belief system and religious system and during war, it partners with the red team. After 1943, the World War which got over, in 1944, Britain gave the throne to America to rule the world. Why I say this is because in 1944, the Bretton Woods system was established. You can read up about this. In 1944, the Bretton Woods system was established, which basically made United States of America the reserve currency of the world. The dollar system came into place where every currency would be linked to the US dollar, which would be backed by gold at $35 an ounce. So by this system, the Bretton Woods system, officially America became the most important nation in the world because of its monetary policy of being the reserve currency of the world. Then something strange happened in 1971. In 1971, Richard Nixon came out and said that no longer will the dollar be backed by gold. No longer will the dollar be backed by gold. Now this was a shock to a lot of countries, but because they were the most powerful nations, the other nations could not react to that. And however, they also knew, USA knew that if the gold was not backed with the US dollar, the demand for US dollar would not exist. And that's why in the 70s itself, they joined hands with Saudi Arabia, which is also in the blue team, and came up with the petrodollar system. This is very, very important. The petrodollar system, which basically stated that all the oil producing countries in the world will sell their oil only in US dollar. All the oil countries in the world will sell their oil only in US dollar. Now obviously there was the Shah of Iran who did not accept this and was taken off. Then we had Saddam Hussein in 90s who said that no, he will not agree to this. He wanted to sell his oil for some other currency or euro. He didn't want to be restricted only to the US dollar. So he was taken off. Then we had Libya, Gaddafi, who raised his voice and said he wants to sell his oil against gold. He was taken off. So basically the whole issue was about the US currency not having the value, which, because it's not backed by gold, it's just printing money. It's like monopoly money. And the other countries on the red team were against the system, and they were raising their voice, but nothing prevailed. Now this gets me to the current situation we are facing. I will not go into too much detail. We can meet personally and talk about it, but the whole issue was that USA kept printing money, and in 1971 they had a overall national debt in probably 100 or 115 billion dollars. Then I'll move straight to 2008, where the debt went to $8 trillion, and the reason they could print so much money was because of the simple fact of not being backed by gold. Because it's not being backed by gold, they can print as much money, and they kept printing this money, and it reached $8 trillion when the housing bubble happened in America, and we had an equity crash. At that time, the 10-year treasury yield was at around 4%. The system could not bear the interest, and that's why we had a housing bubble, and the equity market came to crash, which was followed by quantitative easing, which means that the US interest rate was dropped to zero, and they were allowed to print more money just to keep the economy growing. Now this continued for another 10 years, and we see our equity market booming, and today our equity all over the world, in America, India, it's at the peak. It's only because of the printing of money. And today the US debt has gone up from 8 trillion in 2008 to 21 trillion. Additionally, it has a lot of social security debt, which and the total overall debt, direct and indirect debt of America, goes up to $100 trillion. Now what scares me about this, and what's happened in the recent past is two things. Going back to the background picture is that this magazine that we're looking at is a cover of an Economist magazine, which was issued in 1988. Yeah, it was issued in 1988. And if you look at the coin closely, it says the year 2018. It says the year 2018. And suddenly we see so many things happening around us, which we are, I don't know why, ignoring. All our money is in the equity market. Everybody's portfolio is in the equity market. Everybody is doing SIP or ETFs. And we are so confident about the equity market. This is the same level of confidence in equity market which was there in 2007. And when I look at this magazine again, I think it says something, but I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but I kept this in mind until on March 26th, 2018, we saw the Chinese government introducing yuan petro. On 26th March 2018, just 20 days ago, 25 days ago, the yuan petro was introduced, which means that now China will buy its oil in yuan. Now you'll ask me, but even yuan is not backed by gold, but that's not correct. It's also announced that all the petrol it buys, all the oil it buys with yuan will be backed by gold, which is around 55% of the gold production a year in terms of value on today's price. And that's what makes me bullish on gold. It may be noted that recently Rothschild, Rockefeller and George Soros just announced that they will be investing in cryptocurrencies. A week after that, the Sharia law made it halal/legal to invest in cryptocurrencies. This is a big news. And a week after that, most of the major banks like Goldman Sachs and Deutsche, etc., have showed interest in adding a crypto desk. This is a major news which will add in major adoption of cryptocurrencies. The cryptocurrency, obviously, we've seen for the last 6 months, people are not comfortable investing in it. There are many questions. How do you use it? Is it safe? Is it regulated? Etc. etc. But as we've seen, if they had to shut it, they'd shut it 8 years ago. They wouldn't have waited so long. Number one. Number two, the magazine suggests that, they have a larger plan in this, even though it doesn't say it, but that's my assumption. Number three, just recently what happened in the last 20 days is very interesting, and that's why I say we live in historical times, is because after the petro yuan was introduced, immediately after that we had the Syria chemical war. Now there's a lot of questions about this chemical weapons used in Syria, because it was the same day when the new national security head was appointed, John Bolton, who's from the Reagan administration, and it happened the same day. I don't want to again go into the conspiracy of it, but let's just stay with the facts that on March 26, 2018, yuan petro gets introduced. Just a week after that, John Bolton comes into power. Just the same day, we have Syrian chemical weapons. Just 4 days after that, on Friday the 13th, we have the first US missiles attacking Syria. Now why this is different is because chemical attack happened last year also, where US sent missiles, but this is different. Why? Because this time US was joined by UK and France, and the attack was not just on Syria. The announcement was made that this attack is on Syria, Russia and Iran. Now all this has just happened in the last 20 days, and that's what takes me to the holy book again, which says that the next rule of the world will be Israel, and Israel's again getting into the war with Syria, and it's very much the center of all this, which will be unveiled later in the future. We'll see that probably. I'm just going with the holy book. But coming back to investments, my point is that stocks at the peak. The bond is in a very shaky situation. The US debt situation, the leverage, is at the peak. If you look at the next chart right now, I'll show it briefly. This is the chart of our monetary system. If you look at the topmost where the money is, the derivatives, the futures, the options, where if you have 1 rupee, you can invest 100 rupees. Similarly, this derivative market has reached $1 quadrillion. $1 quadrillion, which is 1,000 trillion. 1,000 trillion. And if you see below that, you'll see that gold and silver are at the utmost bottom. At the utmost bottom. And this is the first thing of investment, that we must invest where the valuations are the lowest, so there's a time to rise. But we are living in sensitive situations. It's a safe haven, and that's why I suggest gold and silver. Silver is at only $16. The cost of production of silver is $14. Silver is the only asset which has stayed at this price since the last 30-40 years. If you see the price chart, you will see that the silver prices have moved from $8 to $16. It went up to $40 briefly, but it's back to its lows of $16. And like I said, the cost of production is $14, so you're buying it cheap. That's my reason I suggest invest in silver. I say invest in gold because it'll be backed by yuan petro. So I see a lot of value coming in. And obviously, if we move from this monetary system, and if equity market collapse comes in and the bond market collapse comes in, people will move their money to gold. It's a safe haven, it's a safe place to be, and that's what I'd suggest, that please move your money to gold, silver, and think about it. But I personally like cryptocurrencies a lot. Do your own research. I think it's here to stay. Also, in the recent times after this announcement has come, Bank of England has announced it to be safe. You have around 20 ATMs which have opened up for Bitcoin in Washington. Japan Yahoo investing in a crypto exchange. This is all the blue team. So I think it's here to stay. So please consider these views. Do your own research. These are just opinions, food for thought. To end it, I would say that I'm very, very bearish on the stock market for 2018. I'm very, very bearish for the bond market. I'm very, very bearish for any derivatives. I'm very, very bullish on gold, very, very bullish on silver, very bullish on cryptocurrency. I'm expecting a change in the monetary system, the way the fiat currency works. When I say fiat currency, this is the paper money. I think we are in the end times of it. We saw demonetization, so we should not be surprised if this can happen. Just overnight, the 500 and 1,000 rupee notes we had were not valid anymore. But just a food for thought for everybody to think about. Thank you.